All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Second here. All right, now we're live. All right, my name's Chris Berry, certified outlaw attorney, certified financial planner with Castle Wealth Group, and we do these webinars each week, once a week, where I just log in and answer any questions that are submitted ahead of time. Sometimes I have questions that are submitted, or if you do have any questions while you're attending today, or if you came with any questions, make sure to put it in the Q&A, and I just answer questions that have been submitted, legal, financial, and tax questions. So if you do have one, please put it in the Q&A. I didn't get any questions this week, but I do have something that I do want to cover in terms of one of the big risks, like sequence of return risk. But we always start with a positive focus. So my positive focus is that actually today I just got back from being in Lansing. We were AARP. They have a show called Real Possibilities that talks about educating seniors on retirement and all the things that go along with it and aging. But we recorded a couple segments, and so we're going to be on TV, which is pretty darn exciting. And it's like Lansing, kind of Livingston County area. So that's pretty cool. And it was cool to partner with AARP. They actually reached out to us because they like our approach. So that was cool. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. But again, if you do have a legal, financial, tax question, feel free to put it in the Q&A. I'll make sure to answer that. But if not, I'm going to cover, let's see, boom, good. All right, so we should be seeing a screen, and it says two sisters, two different retirements. So put this over here. Okay, cool. All right, and I like this document because it helps illustrate what I call sequence return risk. So the idea is that when you're investing when you're 30, it's different than when you're investing when you're 60 or 70 or getting near retirement. The big thing is look at this as while you're working, think of it as you're kind of climbing a mountain. And then once you get to retirement, you got to figure out how to get back down the mountain. And it's two different skill sets. So one is an accumulation phase versus in retirement, a lot of times it's a preservation and distribution phase. And the key component of that is distribution. A lot of times in retirement, we've built up this nest egg, maybe inside of IRAs, that now we need to start pulling money from to help cover our expenses. So we can have our Social Security and our pension, but then maybe we have to draw on our assets, or we're even forced to draw on our assets on the pre-tax IRA money once we turn 72 or 73 or 75, depending on your age, when we have to take out these required minimum distributions. So this is a document that just illustrates a scenario. And let's say we have two sisters, both have $500,000 inside of their IRA. Both will need to pull $30,000 a year for income. The idea is that they have their Social Security or a pension coming in, but there's a gap. We call that the income gap, and they need to pull $30,000 a year. The only difference is we're going to have Jane retire in 2010, and Jill's going to retire in year 2000. Okay, and the reason we're illustrating these these decades is they were very different decades in terms of how the markets performed. So let's say if Jane retired in 2010, her account balance, and assuming we're investing in the S&P 500, her account balance was 500,000. Okay, the market went up. We had to make a withdrawal, but we're still up because the market went up pretty good. All right. Next year, there wasn't any growth. But if you look at this, a lot of kind of positive returns. And if you look at it, her final balance, if she would have retired in 2010 under the same assumption, is 874,000. So kind of worked out well. She was invested in the S&P, and she was pulling her money, and her nest egg was able to grow. But let's take a different look at a different decade. So this is Jill. She retired in 2000. And if you remember from 2000 to 2010, that's kind of a rough decade where we had some down years right in the beginning. And so same situation, we have that $500,000. And if we look at it, the market goes down, and this is what I want to illustrate is if the market is going down and you're having to pull from these, pull from the accounts, then you don't have a chance for the markets to rebuild or for the investments to rebuild. So she had a couple down years right in the beginning, and then things kind of went positive other than 2008. And if you look at it, very dramatic. That same $500,000, assuming they're both invested in the S&P 500, one person retires in 2010, the other retired this. Pick the right decade to retire? No, not really, but it's just understanding that as we get closer to retirement, we need to think about investing differently. One rule of thumb is kind of like the rule of 100. So you take your age and subtract that from 100. So let's say we're 70, that would leave 30, maybe 30% of our portfolio should be in growth or equities. The remaining 70% should be more conservative, more focused on preservation. Versus if you're age 30, maybe 70 or even more should be more aggressive versus what we have on the conservative side. So just something to think about. It was one of the things that we were talking today as part of the AARP thing. We're talking about investing in terms of retirement and making sure your money lasts as long as you do. And that's really how I got started, is the idea of elder law. Elder law is not estate planning. Estate planning is planning for what happens if you die. Elder law is planning for what happens if you don't die. You continue to live and face all the issues that go along with living. And so really it's about making sure your money lasts as long as you do, protecting against market volatility, protecting against the sequence of returns, protecting against tax risk, protecting against long-term care risk. So you worked hard to accumulate all this wealth, and what we do is we look at ways to help you preserve it, make sure it lasts as long as you do, and then whatever you leave as a legacy. So that idea of sequence and return risk, just understanding that the way that we invest when we're 30 is different than the way that we invest when we're 70. For example, I have clients, he's 65, he referred in his like 30-year-old nephew. Trust me, the way that we're handling things is very different in terms of how the investments are structured. So it might be obvious, but it's something that's worth noting. So, all right, let's see. Do we have any questions? Nothing. All right, so this was a quick one. If you do have any legal, financial, tax questions, feel free to shoot it over as an email, and then we'll address it next week. Okay, make it a great week. Take care.